Good evening and welcome to another episode of the League One, League Two show, brought to you again by Over the Bar. Live again, a slightly later time this Friday evening. We're going to be discussing the League One and League Two playoffs, look at or review both the semi-finals from each league, preview the final, and just have a look at how they've got here so far. Joining me again this evening is my co-host Ben. Obviously, Ipswich not being involved in the playoffs, but he's still been entertained by the playoffs, so we've got plenty to talk about. But just before we do get into it, Ben, what have you made about the playoffs so far across all the leagues? It's been a really entertaining watch, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a really entertaining loss. First of all, a real shame that the MK Dons didn't get into the final. I love Wycombe though, so I'm very happy to see them in the final. But overall, both games have been very, very entertaining. I was surprised to see Sunderland beat Sheffield Wednesday, as I genuinely thought that Sheffield Wednesday had a chance to make it to the final. But at the end of the day, we have the two best teams of the playoffs in the finals. So yeah, I mean, hopefully the finals will be a very entertaining game. I'm sure everybody's looking forward to them. And yeah, even League Two as well. Even the League Two playoffs have been very entertaining as well. And first of all, good evening to everybody in the chat. Good evening to Gary. Yes, we will be back for the League One and League Two show next year. And good evening to Chris as well. But David, what did you make of the playoffs? And what do you reckon, or what was your favourite game in the playoffs so far?
Yeah, I've been really entertained by the playoffs so far. Obviously, we don't talk about the Championship on this show, but they've had some really good fixtures there. I really enjoyed both League Ones, but I think the standout tie for me was the Port Vale Swindon one last night. Thursday night, depending when you're watching this. I thought it was a really, really good game. Obviously, going down to penalties, and yeah, some really cracking results. A lot of controversy as well to get into, pitch invasions and the such. So yeah, plenty to discuss. So we'll start off with League One. Obviously, we'll talk about the semi-finals first. So we'll start off with the higher placed team in MK Dons against Wycombe. I think a lot of people went into this one predicting the MK Dons to get to the final, because I think a lot of people were making a case for them to be they probably were the favourites, I think, going into the playoffs, finishing third, narrowly missing out on a top two spot. And a lot of people did think that they were definitely the best of the rest. So were you shocked to see Wycombe get to the final in this one?
Yeah, because the MK Dons, they've been really good all season, and Liam Manning has obviously done a terrific job at the club. They have some very young players. They have some very good loanees. They've definitely made the most out of the loanee market. And overall, they've been the best of the rest in League One. And with all due respect, in my opinion, they've been more consistent than Sunderland, Sheffield Wednesday, and Wycombe Wanderers. For them, as they only finished a point below Rotherham United. But yeah, at the end of the day, and I remember reading the stats on Sky Sports, Wycombe Wanderers have probably been, well, in terms of footballing and chances created, by far the inferior team over the MK Dons. But that doesn't really matter because, Wycombe Wanderers blew them away on the pitch. I thought Wycombe Wanderers were incredibly good. And ultimately, it is a game of two halves, isn't it? So, Wycombe, I thought they did deserve to get into the final based on how they played. Obviously, they've been in the playoffs before. They've gone into the championship via the playoffs. So, yeah, I reckon they deserved it. But the MK Dons, hopefully they get to keep hold of their best players. Because, yeah, next season could be very interesting. We have some very big teams coming down from the championship, the likes of Derby, Barnsley. So it'd be interesting to see where the MK Dons line up next season.
Yeah, I think I don't say I think they should have been the final MK Dons, but obviously Wycombe been very effective at how they play all season. They're not very pretty on the eye, are they? But I made a few comments to other like League One fans, think over social media before the games. If Wycombe went to Stadium MK with an advantage, I didn't see the MK Dons pulling that back. And obviously the 2-0 win at Adams Park was a little bit too much for the MK Dons to overturn. Give it everything they got in the home game, but Wycombe are a very resolute side, aren't they? Probably put it in the most polite way possible. But yeah, in terms of the MK Dons, then obviously we'll talk about them a lot more in the end of season review. But do you think they'll be back here again next season, or do you think this is probably the best chance to get somewhere this season?
It depends, really, and it depends whether they keep hold of their big players. And that is an ever heard cliche in football, keeping hold of your best players. But genuinely, I reckon they've had some of the best players in this league, the likes of Scott Twine, who's been absolutely incredible in midfield for them this season. Troy Parrott, look, he's on loan from Tottenham, but if they can get him in on loan again, then yeah, they'd be very, very well off. So it's all about keeping hold. And I'm talking more of the likes of Scott Twine, keeping hold of those players and building a foundation around them as well. Because at the end of the day, these are players who are going to be in high demand from the championship. Scott Twine is a very young player, championship player of the season to many. So it'll be fascinating to see what they do. Of course, they have some fantastic players in their team anyway. They can keep hold of their best players anyway, then who knows how far they can go. They can keep hold of the likes of McEachran, Darling in defence. Then, yeah, I reckon that they do indeed have the foundations to build upon this season for next year. But my only worry is that Liam Manning is going to be in demand in the summer if any managers do leave the championship. And a lot of their players are as well. I highly doubt that they'll be able to keep hold of Parrott over the summer. I think that is a very unrealistic thing because Tottenham will probably want him back either on the bench or they're going to loan him out to a championship team. And there are plenty of players who will be wanted by bigger clubs. That is the harsh reality of your League One team. But if they recruit well, then who knows? Hopefully, and I have my fingers crossed here because I do like this MK Dons team. They can bounce back next season. What do you think, though, David? Do you reckon they can bounce back? Do you reckon they'll have a bit of a playoff hangover?
I think they'll be back. I think as long as they can keep all the Manning, I think the one player they probably will lose is Scott Twine. I don't see him sticking around for another season in League One. I think there'll be plenty of championship clubs that come sniffing around him. Troy Parrott, I think he could be another one that might get a loan with the championship. But if they can keep like Mo Isa, I think they've got a chance as well. So he's a very good striker at this level. So yeah, they've got some quality there and they just need to keep hold of it. But I don't expect them to keep hold of every single quality player in that squad anyway. But we'll focus on Wycombe before we go and discuss the second tie. So obviously Wycombe were the lowest ranked team coming to finish in sixth place, but they still had an incredible points total going into this one. Do you think obviously this might upset a lot of League One fans there in the final, given how poorly received they've been all season from opposition fans?
Not really, because when we look at the way Wycombe last got into the championship, they got in there in a very similar manner. Gareth Ainsworth, look, he's a brilliant manager. He knows how to rise up to big occasions. He has a team who is very good at rising up to those big occasions. And at the end of the day, Wickham are relishing that underdog tag, and I reckon they relished it when they played the MK Dons, because let's be honest, nobody probably expected them to get into the playoffs and to beat the MK Dons. So yeah, I mean, it'd be a very interesting game indeed. They've kept hold of Sam Vokes for next season, so hopefully he'll play well in the final. And they'd want to send Akinfenwa off as well. They'd want to give him a very good send off as well. There'll be no better way to do that than getting into the championship. But again, we're going to talk about this in the final episode of the season, where we will do a small review of it. But when we look at Wycombe Wanderers throughout the season, they haven't exactly been a very prolific team. Okay, they've had freak games against the likes of Cheltenham where they have scored a lot of goals, but overall they're not a side who have been very prolific at all. So that is my one worry going into the final. We will talk about Sunderland in a bit more detail later on, but I'm very interested to see how they will line up against Sunderland and how they will score against the Sunderland back line. So yeah, to be a very interesting final. Wycombe, they've had a good season. Gareth Ainsworth is a seasoned vet in the Football League, and he knows exactly what he needs to do to get the most out of this squad. So Wycombe, David, again, they have been the underdogs for a lot of this season. Can you see them getting past Sunderland, or do you reckon it'd be a bit of an ask even for this Wycombe side?
Yeah, I'll say my prediction when we come to talk about the final in a moment. Don't want to give any spoilers away, keep people tuning in. But yeah, I think in terms of Wycombe, so obviously made a point there about Ainsworth being a seasoned veteran. Obviously, still very early days in his managerial career, but he's obviously made a very good start with Wycombe, and he knows the Football League inside out. So yeah, I think he's going to take some beating. And I think really these are two unpopular sides amongst the neutral. Obviously, Wycombe haven't got any fans for their style of play. Obviously, people like to take the piss out of Sunderland, don't they, at any given opportunity, given the Netflix documentary and whatnot. So, yeah, I don't think it's the most popular of finals for the neutral in League One, but should be a cracking game nonetheless. We'll come back and talk about Wycombe in a little bit more detail in a few minutes. We're going to talk about Sheffield Wednesday against Sunderland. So, obviously, Sheffield Wednesday went into this one with being the higher ranked team, finishing in fourth place, has Sunderland fifth place. Sunderland getting the 1-0 win in the first leg through Stewart. It was a very even tie. There weren't much to separate them, but Sunderland obviously getting the edge from the first leg, seeing them through.
Yeah, and Sheffield Wednesday, they were a very good side. I didn't think they played badly at all. Barry Bannon, I thought he was a terrific player in both legs. But when you look at it, I can't help but feel a bit disappointed for Sheffield Wednesday, really, because, they were a team who, in my opinion, had a bit of a culture shock in League One, very similar to when Ipswich got relegated a few years ago. And League One seemed to be a lot more difficult than Darren Moore may have anticipated. But yeah, they got into the playoffs, which at the end of the day, a lot of fans would have taken. And ultimately, they haven't gotten to the final. They were outplayed at the end of the day by Sunderland, a good Sunderland team as well under Alex Neil. He's definitely got them firing well. When you look at Sheffield Wednesday throughout the season, though, it took a while for them to get going. I remember a couple of months ago, maybe about December, we were talking about Sheffield Wednesday as though they were going to get rid of Darren Moore simply due to their poor start of the season. But Darren Moore is a very good manager. He got them firing, he got them playing, and ultimately they finished fourth, which isn't too bad when you consider the way they started. But at the end of the day, when you look at this squad and the players that they had, the likes of Josh Windass, Massimo Luongo, Marvin Johnson, Harley Dean, these, in my opinion, are all championship players, and of course Barry Bannon as well. So how many of those players are going to stay there next season? Not because any championship clubs will want them, because maybe they'll want to maybe free up their wage bill a little bit. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a few of those players gone. And yeah, ultimately, this may sound quite harsh, but I reckon it's been a disappointing season for Sheffield Wednesday. They've had good moments, but ultimately I think a lot of fans expected them to maybe perform a bit better than they have. And good evening to everybody in the chat, by the way. Get your questions in. We will get onto them later. But David, Sheffield Wednesday, is it harsh of me to say that they've had a disappointing season? Because again, they have got a good manager. Although this is their first season in League One. So is it harsh to say that's been a disappointing season?
I think the most realistic of Sheffield Wednesday fans, I think if you'd offered them a top 6 finish at the start of the season, probably would have taken it. But yeah, obviously a playoff defeat is obviously going to sting a little bit in it, especially with how close they came as well. Obviously a very narrow defeat in that first leg. Then the second leg, for the large part, looked like they were going to get through, didn't it, until Patrick Roberts popped up in the 93rd minute with that goal to send Sunderland to the final. So, yeah, I imagine Sunderland fans will be obviously smiling over that one. But yeah, it's going to hurt for Sheffield Wednesday fans. But they've got the right manager, they've got a good squad, and they'll be back next season.
Yeah, and I think that's spot on to say, really, because, they are a team alongside with a lot of big teams coming down from the Championship who are going to be wanting to get promotion. Next season in the Championship is going to be a very, very strong league. And the likes of Sheffield Wednesday will be competitive in it because they have squads that will match a lot of teams in League One. So, yeah, next season it will be interesting to see how they do. But we have the likes of Peterborough, Barnsley and Derby coming down. Don't get me wrong, they're still very good teams, but I reckon Sheffield Wednesday are probably better than the likes of Peterborough, with all due respects. So yeah, I reckon they'll very similarly to Wickham. The MK Dons, excuse me. I reckon they will bounce back next season. But let's talk about another team. And David, tell us a bit about Sunderland, because Sunderland, they've had an on and off season. We will talk about them in a bit more detail in the season review. But yeah, what did you make of them in both legs?
I thought it was solid. I thought they did what they needed to get the job done. Obviously, there has been a bit of an argument all like the last few months at Sunderland are an entertaining side to watch, but at the end of the day, they get the results, don't they? And ever since Patrick Neil, then didn't it? Alex Neil came in, they've barely lost a game. When you look at the 6-0 drubbing they got back away at Bolton, it was 6-0. Obviously, they've barely lost a game since then. And it's just been win after win, a few draws thrown in there. But yeah, they're in the final on merit for sure. Obviously, we'll talk about the final in a bit more detail. I'm expecting them to be, well, they're obviously going to start the favourites, aren't they? But they've got a lot of quality in that squad. Probably one of the strongest Sunderland sides they've had in this division. So yeah, a squad littered with quality. Team. To be fair, Sheffield Wednesday and Sunderland have both been disappointed to be meeting each other in the semi-finals, because can you imagine that as a final, they'd have sold out Wembley quite comfortably, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and it would have. But yeah, I mean, look, it's been a very entertaining playoff so far, and I think the two teams in the final at the moment are teams that probably deserve to be in there. I reckon in regards to the football that's going to be played, maybe Wickham versus Sunderland isn't as attractive as maybe another team being in it, but it'd be very interesting indeed, and I'd be fascinated to see what everybody else in the chat thinks of the final. What do you reckon the score's going to be? Who do you reckon will win? And of course, we will get to them at the very end of the show. And of course, we'll give you our predictions later on as well. But yeah, David, let's go on to League Two. And I'm going to ask you about both games, both legs of the two games when we talk about the playoffs in League Two. Of course, I invite everybody to get involved over in the chat. Give us your thoughts on the playoffs as well. But the first game that I want to talk about is Mansfield versus Northampton Town. First of all, David, Mansfield went through. Do you reckon they deserved it, or do you reckon it was a very tight game on paper?
Yeah, I think before the semi-finals, I predicted Mansfield to get through. I think the disappointment of the way Northampton fell out of the top three on the final day due to an incredible result from Bristol Rovers, I think that really, really will have affected them going into that playoffs, because up until like the very last minutes, they were 3-0 up or something. It was either 3-0, 3-1. I can't remember now the final day scores, but they were comfortably looking like they were coasting into League One. And then obviously Bristol Rovers slapping like 7 goals past Scunthorpe, saw them get promoted to League One, didn't it? So it will have stung Northampton, and I think that kind of carried over into the semi-finals. They never really looked to get going. And Mansfield were by far the better side with 2 legs, winning both of them, home and away, 3-1 in aggregate. So I don't think anyone can complain that Mansfield are in the final ahead of Northampton. I think a lot of people will have kind of expected it, to be fair. So yeah, can't really knock it, really.
So we're going to dive a tiny bit off topic here. Mansfield boss Nigel Clough has said that the pitch invasion incidents that have been happening lately are getting concerning after one of his players was apparently shoved by a fan that ran onto the field at Northampton. Now, David, we don't like seeing any of these incidents at the moment, but including the Championship, a lot of these games have been plagued by incidents like this. So what have you made of them? And should more be done to maybe control the fans a little bit, or do these things happen in the playoffs?
Yeah, it's a bit of it's a sort of state of affairs, really. It's never. I know we have the odd pitch invasion here and there after a semi-final once the winning team's there, but we never get incidents like this, and it's pathetic to see. Fans just because when Rochdale played Bristol Rovers a few weeks ago, Bristol Rovers got onto the pitch when they went 4-3 up. Yeah, it's a cracking comeback, but stay in the stands. There's a time and a place for a pitch invasion. That you've got teams against the fight. If you're going to go on the pitch, at least behave yourselves. No need to get in the opposition fans' faces, celebrating right in front of them, opposition players. There's absolutely no need for. Obviously, we've seen ugly incidents that happen in the Championship playoff semi-finals. I don't recall us having any in the League One semi-finals, but obviously happened in the League Two semi-finals. Obviously, we had the incident at Everton last night with Patrick Vieira and an Everton fan. So, yeah, it's not nice to see. Say if you feel like you need to get on the pitch to celebrate, by all means, but there's no need to be getting in opponents' faces. It just there's like such a lack of class about it, and yeah, it don't look good for the game, does it?
And similarly, or something similar, was said during the Swindon Port Vale game. Swindon town manager Ben Garner said his players were physically and verbally abused after their League Two playoff semi-final defeat against Port Vale. So again, similar to what you just said, we hate seeing these things, and it happened again at the Swindon Port Vale game, didn't it, David?
Yeah, and I just genuinely don't understand the mentality. It's like I just said, if you feel like you need to go on the pitch and celebrate that success, fair play. Like it's a rare occasion for some of these clubs to get to Wembley, experience a bit of success, but celebrate your own players, celebrate your own fans. You don't need to be a dick and start getting other people's face. It's just unnecessary in it. So yeah, obviously everyone has every right to celebrate, but at least do it in the correct manner rather than showing yourself up and making your club look like hooligans.
So let's talk about Port Vale versus Swindon, because both legs were incredibly entertaining. Of course, Port Vale deservedly went through, in my opinion. They played very well indeed. But give us your thought on the games, because they were two very entertaining games, weren't they, David? So do you reckon the right team went through? Because Port Vale, when you look at them on paper, they've been very similar throughout the season to Swindon.
Yeah, I thought the first leg was much better. I think Swindon kind of set themselves up for a bit of a failure, really, because I'm not sure if many of you have seen the post-match interviews from the first leg. Harry McCurd taking a slight dig at his old manager, Darrell Clark, and obviously Port Vale kind of did a bit of a team talk, really, for Port Vale, really. Yeah, two really good. I think both semi-finals for League Two are very entertaining. But yeah, this one was a really, really good one for me. I'm a huge fan of watching a penalty shootout as a neutral. Anyway, if it involves Rochdale, then yeah, I'm not a fan at all. But yeah, from a neutral point of view, as soon as that goes to penalties, that's got me entertained for like the next 10-15 minutes. And last night was no different. I think over 2 legs, I think Port Vale were slightly the better side. But yeah, it's a bit of a sting for Swindon fans in it today.
So, Nick Miller, I will be going to the game on Sunday. Haven't got tickets, but it hasn't sold out. Yeah, hope you enjoy the game. It should be a cracking tie anyway. So let's talk about the final, the game that Nick Miller will be at, because it will be a very good game. It's be Port Vale versus Mansfield Town. This is a very difficult game to predict, isn't it, David? We'll talk about our predictions for both finals later on in the show. But Yeah, what are you expecting to see on Sunday? Are you expecting to see a game with plenty of goals, or do you reckon that's going to be a very tight, nervy game?
Yeah, just part the date. It's not Sunday; it's the Saturday, the 28th. So we've got the League One final on Saturday, and then it's the League Two final the Saturday after. So we've got a bit of a gap now to wait for this one. So plenty of opportunity for Mansfield and Port Vale fans to get the tickets and get the excitement building around this one. But it's going to be a very cagey affair. I think two very, very evenly matched sides. I'm struggling to pick a winner, and I'm going to have to pick one before the end of the show. I know, but it's a very, very tough game to predict. But yeah, I think with all these playoff finals are very cagey affairs. It's not very often you see 5-6 goal thrillers, is it? So yeah, I just think as long as we get a good game on the pitch, the fans behave themselves and not being like fried eggs in the stands, then yeah, I think we're in for a really good game.
So, David, I'm now going to transition onto the questions because we do have plenty of questions to get through this evening. Of course, it isn't too late to get involved in the questions, but I think this is the right time to now ask for your predictions on both the League One and League Two finals. So, we're going to start off with League One. It'll be Sunderland versus Wycombe Wanderers tomorrow at Wembley. Who do you reckon's going to win, and what do you reckon the score is going to be?
I've been saying for the majority of the week, I'm going to stick with Sunderland. I think they've got that knack at the minute to grind out results, regardless of how well or how poor they're playing. I'm not expecting that to change tomorrow. Obviously, I think Wycombe will put in a hell of a performance. It's going to be a very tough one. I'm not expecting Sunderland to run away with it. I think it'll only be the one goal in it. I think Sunderland will nick this one 1-0 personally. But what do you think, Ben?
Yeah, I reckon Wycombe will win, actually. And the only reason I say that is because they are a team who can defend for 90 minutes and who can spring a goal out from literally out of nowhere. So I reckon Wycombe will be perfectly set up at the back to deal with Sunderland and to deal with their players. And it'll be a very tight, edgy game. I don't see many goals in it at all. So I reckon Wycombe will win. Though if Sunderland win, I wouldn't be that surprised either. Dan Green thinks it'll be 3-1 to Sunderland, but it would be funny and nice to see Wycombe pip them. Just reading through some of the questions, Mark Baker 1-1 and Wycombe will win on penalties. Yep, that's what I think will happen, Mark, so that'll be very interesting. And just a correction, Nick will be going to the Wrexham versus Bromley game on Sunday. That'll be very entertaining indeed. So hopefully I do get to catch that. But again, talking about Sunderland and Wycombe, who do you reckon is going to be relishing this game more? Because Sunderland have been in League One for a longer time than Wycombe. Yet when you think about it, Wycombe, this is a great opportunity to send off a player like Akinfenwa to be the perfect final game for him, wouldn't it? So who would be relishing this game more, Wycombe or Sunderland?
I think Wycombe will relish it more from an underdog point of view. I think all the pressure's on Sunderland tomorrow. Obviously, they've got a huge backing tomorrow at Wembley. I know they're outnumbering the Wycombe fans quite substantially. So all the pressure's going to be on Sunderland. I think they need to win this final more than Wycombe. There's so much pressure from the fans. I think financially as well, it's a big deal this for Sunderland tomorrow. Obviously, the third season in League One. Failed in the playoff final in the 2019 season. So yeah, it's a big occasion for them tomorrow. Wycombe, obviously relegated from the Championship last season. Big chance for them to go back at the first time of asking. And again, what a huge achievement that'd be for Gareth Ainsworth. But yeah, I think all the pressure tomorrow is on Sunderland's shoulders, and I think Wycombe can kind of go down there knowing they're going to put in a good performance, and there's not as much pressure on them. They will be the underdogs tomorrow.
So fingers crossed that Sunderland do win because they haven't had a very good record at Wembley in recent years. Yeah, again, Wycombe also deserve to win as well. So to be a very cracking game indeed. Sunderland will be backed by 46,000 fans. So yeah, to be a very good day out for them indeed. But on Saturday, the 28th of May at 4 o'clock, we will be seeing Mansfield Town versus Port Vale. So again, David, and I don't think I've asked the chat this, but who do you reckon is going to win, and what do you reckon the score is going to be? Do you see it being a tight game or a game full of goals?
It's so hard to call this final. When you look at the league table, only 1 point separated both teams across the course of the season. They scored the exact same amount of goals in the league as well all season, 67. Port Vale conceded 46, Mansfield's 52, so only 6 goals in it there as well. If I had to pick a winner, I think I'm going to go with Port Vale for this one. A couple of times I've seen this season, I've been really impressed with them. They look great. When I saw me in Salford the other week as well, you're going back like a month or so now, and I was really impressed with them that night. I think that's probably the reason why I'm giving the edge. I'm trying to think if I've seen Mansfield live this season. I think I did when Dale played them, but I can't remember the game. But I remember Port Vale sticking out in my mind, and I think that's why I was giving them the edge. But what do you think, Ben? I know you don't follow League Two all that close, but who are you going with on this one?
Yeah, I don't follow League Two too closely, though. To be fair, I reckon Port Vale will probably win. And the reason I say that is because I really like their manager, Darryl Clark. I think he's an excellent, brilliant young manager. And I reckon their team will rise to the occasion. I reckon they do have the players to win it as well. The likes of Mal Benning, who is a very good player. So to be very fascinating to see exactly how they play. They do have James Wilson up front as well, who's been very consistent so far this season. And they also have David Worrell, who is a bit of a League Two veteran. So at the end of the day, I reckon they will win purely due to experience and the players that they have. Though again, it's very difficult to predict because both teams are very similar and both teams have their own strengths, if that makes sense. So anyway, David, on to the questions. We will, of course, be reading out some of your predictions as we do go through them. So keep them coming. Keep your questions coming as well. Though, David, let's get on to the questions.
Yeah, I'll have a flick through. I want to make sure we don't ask the same thing twice. I think we already covered it. The comment from Gary at the start, please clear the show will be back next season. It will be. I'm not sure under what format yet, whether it was going to be League One, League Two separately, League One, League Two. I have kind of started following the Championship a little bit more to probably do some Championship coverage, but that's a discussion for during the summer. But we'll get that confirmed over the summer, so watch this space for that. Will you be doing any content over the summer? I most likely won't until pre-season. Like I said on the last show, probably going to take a break from football-related content for a bit and football as a whole. I think kind of a bit. Obviously, I know we've had first season back after all these restrictions and whatnot, but I think it's got to that point where you see a little break from it and come back refreshed, ready to go again in August. Matt Baker, hello chaps, just in the pub, it's a bit too late to hear. Like Gary, I'll have to catch up tomorrow. Any chance you're doing some watch along? Saw the Bundesliga lads did a couple and they were good. Yeah, there's a potential for it to happen eventually. So we did discuss doing the playoff finals, but I'm doing some run on Sunday around Manchester, so I just kind of want to take it easy tomorrow and not really do much. And it's probably my feet up watching the game. We could still do a League Two final, but I think that's a discussion we'll have over the next week because obviously Ben's very busy with working unit at the minute and whatnot. So we'll have to wait and see on that. The only issue we've got with doing watch-alongs next season is sadly Sky Sports, even though they own the rights to EFL coverage, barely showing a League One or League Two game. So it's once in a blue moon we get a League One or League Two game on. So if they do crop up and it's a decent game, we'll probably do some watch-alongs next season. But we're just going to have to rely on Sky showing the game so we can actually watch it and actually offer you some insight onto it. Sky pull the fingers out, we can get some of that done next season. Next question is from Dan Green, so I'll come to you on this one, Ben. Do you think Sheffield Wednesday underestimated League One, like Sunderland continue to do?
Yeah, I reckon they underestimated League One. I don't think it was the way Darren Moore set them up as a side or as a club. I simply reckon that it was a whole load of very good players going into a very rough and tumble league. It's a league that, with all due respect, probably doesn't play as nice football as the Championship. And and a league that ultimately is very hard tackling as well, if that makes sense. So yeah, I do reckon they underestimated the league. I'd say in a very similar way to Ipswich as well, and that is how I kind of relate to it, because when we went down, I think it was 2021 under Paul Hurst, we initially really badly underestimated the league. Paul Hurst didn't set us up very well at all in the Championship. Paul Lambert, he was an absolute disaster in the first season because we brought in a whole load of players who, yes, on paper were incredibly good, but hadn't necessarily played a lot of League One football before. And I think that's the same issue that Sheffield Wednesday have. Good Championship players who've played in the Premier League, the Championship as well, especially the likes of Patterson, who did play quite a bit in the Premier League. And ultimately, these players had never played in League One before. The quality isn't as good. And at the end of the day, that can play in the hands of some of the smaller teams, with all due respect, because, they are hard tackling. They are maybe a bit more robust in regards to the way that they do play with the ball on the floor. So yeah, I reckon they did underestimate it, and I reckon they will probably learn from it next season. Hopefully they do keep hold of Darren Moore, because he is a brilliant manager. So yeah, David, give us your thoughts. Do you reckon they underestimated the league a little bit?
I think I don't want to be too harsh on them. I think they had a bit of a slow start. They were knocking around the top six, but they've never been a million miles away all season. I just think they've had like a tremendous run to the end of the season, but they were never like dwindling towards the bottom end of the table, where they've been there or thereabouts all season. Obviously, it's when you come down from the Championship to League One, there is a bit of a culture shock on and off the pitch in terms of like budgets, obviously the grounds that you go into compared to what you see in the Championship. It is a huge gulf. Really, I know that gulf's kind of going a little bit because of some of the teams that you see in League One, but obviously, no disrespect to some of the other clubs, but the likes like your Accringtons, Cheltenhams, Cambridges, Morecambes, and whatnot, they are a far cry away from the likes like your Nottingham Forest, West Broms, and whatnot. So, yeah, there's a huge difference in terms of like the infrastructures and things like that. But yeah, I don't think Sheffield Wednesday have been too bad. Obviously, Rotherham and Wycombe are kind of showing my point up a little bit because they've adjusted to League One a lot better. But what you got to bear in mind is Wycombe and Rotherham have been in League One a lot more recently than Sheffield Wednesday. So I think that kind of gives the springboard for them to perform a little bit better. They know what the league's a little bit about a bit more. And I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but Rotherham and Wycombe are more League One material than Sheffield Wednesday. So I think they can kind of cope at both levels. Sheffield Wednesday have had to adjust as the season's gone on. But yeah, a few people might take that the wrong way, but it's no intent to offend with that comment. Next question from Mark Baker. We'll do this for both leagues, Ben, so have a think about who you think for both leagues. So first manager to be sat next season, who we're saying. So we'll go with League One first. Who do you think is going to be the first managerial casualty in League One?
Wow, that's probably a question that I might have needed a bit of preparation for. Yeah, to be fair, I don't really know, and I'll probably think about it sooner rather than later, but it depends who wins the playoffs, in my opinion. I reckon the first manager to leave, and I don't reckon he will get sacked, and this is only if they don't win the playoff final, will probably be Gareth Ainsworth. I reckon he'll leave the side if they don't win the playoff final. But yeah, I mean, apart from that, I'll have to go through some of the sides and see exactly who they've hired. Charlton, they've been very well known to sack their managers on a consistent basis. If they don't start well next season, I know the position is vacant at the moment, but maybe they would sack their new manager. So yeah, I mean, that'll be very, very interesting indeed to see exactly what will happen. I reckon some of the teams that have been underperforming this season might sack their manager. So I'm going to go on a bit of a whim here and say that the first manager to get sacked next season might be Steve Cotterill at Shrewsbury. It depends how they perform next season, though. Though, again, that is simply on a whim. That is simply an answer from the top of my mind. But yeah, David, hopefully you've had a bit of time to think about the question for League One. But who do you reckon is going to be the first League One manager to either leave or get sacked next season?
As soon as you started saying the word Steve, I thought I was going to pinch my damn answer. But no, I'm going with Stephen Schumacher at Plymouth. I think he'll be the first one to go next season. I think he's going to start next season under an incredible amount of pressure, given the way that Plymouth fell out of the playoffs on the final day. So yeah, they're going to be on. I think it's going to be under immense pressure next season. And if they don't start well, I think the fans will get on his back relatively quickly, and he'll be the first one to go for me. But on to League Two. Who are you picking for the first casualty in League Two, Ben?
Well, I mean, I could be quite silly here and say potentially Salford's new manager will probably get the sack quite early on. I mean, it's quite ironic, really, because we hear Gary Neville talking about managerial sackings in League One, but they have named under 23 Manchester United under 23 coach Neil Wood as their manager. And personally, the way I see it, if it doesn't go well for him early on, then I don't know League Two as well, but I can kind of see them being a bit trigger happy with that. But yeah, I mean, apart from that, I mean, that is a very difficult question to answer. My answer, though, in all honesty, will probably be Bradford City. Mark Hughes is a very good manager. I reckon he will do very well for them next season. But they didn't exactly set the world alight under Mark Hughes. I know they won their 3 final games before the end of the season. But personally, I wouldn't be fully surprised to potentially see him leave early on. Tranmere Rovers as well, I wouldn't be too surprised to potentially sack a manager if they don't start well at all. But again, that is just my opinion. Mickey Mellon is a fantastic manager, though he's another player who I reckon could, or manager, sorry, who I reckon could potentially get sacked. But yeah, a lot of my opinions on League Two probably aren't as informed as yours, David. So who do you reckon could potentially get the sack early on in League Two?
Yeah, I think there's a couple you touched on there that I was going to say. I think the main ones for me are Tranmere and Bradford. I think Mickey Mellon could be under pressure early doors, given the fact they missed out on the top 7 this year. I think a lot of Tranmere fans expected them to be there or thereabouts for top 3 this season, so they'll be very disappointed to miss out on the top 7 altogether. I imagine Mark Hughes will be given funds this summer. Obviously, he's got a big reputation as well, so I think that automatically puts him under a bit more pressure than anybody else would be under. So yeah, they're my 2 for League Two anyway. Next question is from Dan Green. I think we've got a couple more before we wrap things up. I think the League Two game will be a cracker, possibly better than the League One final. It's more finely balanced. What do you reckon, lads? I think both of these finals are going to be great. I think the League Two one's got a bit more intrigue. I think it's a lot closer to call. I'm not saying the League One finals like a foregone conclusion or anything like that, but I think this one's much harder to call than the League One final. I think that's probably why it gives it the edge for me in terms of what could be a better final. But what do you think, Ben?
Yeah, again, I reckon the League One final, and as somebody that follows League One very closely, I reckon that's going to be more of a cagey final. I wouldn't be surprised to see it go to penalties at all, purely due to the way that Wycombe play and the fact that they will prepare their backline very well to come up against Alex Neil's Sunderland. Port Vale, Mansfield Town, again, that is such a tight game. I have no idea how that will go at all. So to be fair, I reckon that'll probably be more of an entertaining game on the pitch than Sunderland versus Wycombe. But yeah, I'd be very interested to see what everybody else in the chat thinks. Which game do you reckon will be the more entertaining?
Next question is, let me just double check. I'm just playing a bit of catch up. Yes, from a very disgruntled wife. Does that mean you'll be taking a break from sport in general? No, Courtney. So you're going to have to do me hogging the TV during the summer as well. F1, cricket, rugby league, I've still got that to watch. I'm pretty certain there's going to be some table tennis at some point that I'll be wanting to watch. So
yeah, the Women's Euros as well.
Plenty to be watching. So yeah, you're not getting a break from the sport in this household. Dan Green, great to hear the confirmation you two lads are back next season. On both League One, you both each other. Cheers, Dan. Loads of League One games now. Derby have dropped on Sky. Yeah, probably, but say from a neutral's point of view, I don't want to be watching Derby every single week from a League One perspective. No disrespect to our lads on the channel, guests on the channel, but you two, the Kings of Over the Bar, big fan of the written stuff on the site too. Matt Nash League and Paul La Liga in particular. Yeah, some really good content, but yeah, I don't really want to be taking the tag of King of Over the Bar. There's a lot of people that do a lot better content than what I do, and a lot more frequently, so I'm not going to take that tag, but thank you, Dan. Yeah, and Dan as well, Salford manager is always like next line to be sacked. Yeah, I agree with that. Last question is from Nick Muller. Benjamin, do you go to games? Are you in the North Stand?
Yeah, I try to attend as many games as I can. I'd say in general, I probably attend about 10 games a year when I'm not busy at university. A lot of them are away days, either up in London as I have family up there or down here as well. I do attend Portman Road quite a bit as well. But when I'm normally there, I'm usually sat in the Bobby Robson stand. The atmosphere is there. You have the drumming there as well. I know drummers in football grounds are quite a touchy topic, but I quite enjoy the atmosphere in the Bobby Robson stand. And I think Blue Action has done a brilliant job in just galvanising the atmosphere in Portman Road. It's been very, very packed this season. And again, the atmosphere has been absolutely brilliant. I think we've sold the most amount of season tickets we've sold in quite a while for next season. So I'd be fascinated to see how exactly, well, how many fans do back the team next season? Because I reckon it will be sold out on a regular basis. But yeah, I'm usually in the Sir Bobby Robson stand. Brilliant stand, great atmosphere as well.
Yeah, and that's everything for this week. We are going to be back after the playoff finals. So obviously we've got the playoff final on the 28th. So yeah, it'll be the subsequent week after that. We'll come back and we'll get some end of season reviews done, do our teams of the season, player and manager of the season. So yeah, we've got plenty of time to get thinking about that. So make sure you come and tune in for those ones. But that's everything for this week anyway. Just the usual particulars before we do go. Make sure you check out the written content for the site, www.otbfootball.net, where all our written content is showcased. Also, Twitter at @OTheBarFB. So make sure you drop us a follow on there and show us a bit of support through there. Also, if you are watching us through Twitter, make sure you head over to youtube.com/OverTheBarFB, or just search Over the Bar, will bring us up. We've got an interview that me and Paul did last week with Nader Manua, a former City defender, previewing the Butley release this week. So yeah, make sure you check out. It's a fascinating interview that we've got to do, and there's a really great opportunity. So if you bear me one sec. Apparently we've had one more question coming on the live chat. I wonder who that's from. No, there's nothing. Apparently I was told we had another question on the live chat, but we haven't.
Yeah, we
but
have
I'll
one about
continue rapping.
Stevenage. So
Have
whether
we?
Stevenage will be due, or whether Stevenage will do better next season. But yeah, Nick, we'll probably cover that in the League Two season review. So we'll probably leave it there for the time being.
Yeah, so it didn't come up for me. So yeah, I'm glad yours refreshed, Ben. So cheers for that. But yeah, that is everything. So yeah, make sure you come back next week and we'll go for all the end of season reviews. And we'll see you all very, very soon. But yeah, like I said, make sure you do check out all the content in the meantime. And thank you very much.